My Jewish story begins a very long time ago, and it begins with the phrase, tikkun olam, to repair the world with acts of love and kindness. It's been instilled in me by a very young age, by my grandfather, and then my father, and of course my mom. And it's the thing that I wake up every day thinking, if I can just make a little bit of difference today, I'm doing my part. And that's what it's about for me. It's about the songs. It's about knowing that I can turn to God through the seasons and find my path every year. And my Jewish tradition is at the heart of that. It's at the heart of my universalist Jewish concept. And I am forever grateful to my family for instilling those values in me. My gay journey also begins when I was a little kid. And as I was preparing this story, you know, I had not thought about this for such a long time. When I was 6 years old, my best friends, Jen and Chris Colbert, we met at Tucson Country Day School. And we used to play at their house all the time. And what we did was, their mom was a lounge singer in Japan during the 40s. And she had a fantastic trunk full of amazing costumes. Now, do you want to take a guess at what my favorite costume was? Well, I'm here to tell you that my favorite costume was a pink kimono with a lovely garden pattern on it. And you know what? At that time, gender, you know, I didn't think of it as, you know, some women's wear or men's wear. It was just something fun to wear. And we would go off to enchanted forests or, you know, kingdoms of playing wizards and witches and mermaids. And we just had a blast. The other thing I used to do as a kid was I loved the top coat of my mother's nail polish. And I know that she's smiling over there. And it was very sparkly, you know, and I still love sparkles, so that's not a surprise. So fast forward a couple of years and you get to coming out story. And, you know, I was at Canyon del Oro High School, and we had just had a play, Bull in a China Shop. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm going to take my parents home, I'm going to make them sit down, and I'm going to tell them something they don't know, that they're not expecting. Well, I was so let down. My mom said to me, well, I thought maybe you were gay since you were about 6 years old. Well, what's the reason? Well, you like to wear my shoes, you like to wear your dad's shoes, you like the shiny nail polish. And I thought, wow, I never put those two things together at all. The other thing I didn't put together was that you had to, if you were a man who liked men in a sensual way, that meant that you were likely to wind up in a relationship of some kind with them. Never crossed my mind. I thought all men thought of men and were with women. Naturally. You know, that's what guys do. Guys think about each other. It didn't dawn on me until much later on. So, fast forwarding still, it was a difficult time in my life. I was just wrapping up a job with the American Cancer Society at the end of 2007, and I decided to hightail it for the first time to the snowy north. I was living about 50 miles from Canada, and I thought, you know, being a community relationship manager was just boring. I tired that, you know, fighting for cancer was great, but year after year after year after year, the same thing. There was nothing innovative about it. So I went up to the snowy north to figure myself out. What I figured out was there were no Jews, there were very few gay people in that area, And I couldn't wait after 9 months to hightail it back to Tucson for Rosh Hashanah and the high holidays. And I had even already come home for Passover once because it just wasn't the same. And people were not that accepting. So I learned what a gem of a community that I'm from. And you know, back before I left, when John Peck was still the vice president of the Federation, myself and a bunch of others got together and we talked to him about a need for some type of LGBT Jewish representation. I remember being really passionate, and then after it happened, really like filled with, you know, you would think I would be thankful, but instead I was filled with a lot of anger. I remember everyone was like, well, let's be thankful for all of the Jewish communities that have said yes, that they're friendly and accepting. And I remember thinking to myself, what does that mean? What are they doing? And I remember back to the story of being in shul, sitting there during Yom Kippur and interpreting the passage, you know, about sexual immorality. Thou shalt not lie down with a man from Leviticus the same way that thou lies down with a woman. Well, the vacuum of silence, folks. What do you hear in shul? What did I hear in shul? Not too much about that. And it just led me in the silence to listen to these conservative Jewish and Christian voices that kept saying, you're wrong, you're not okay, who you are doesn't matter and needs to be fixed. So I'm thankful that my journey has given me the chance to be empowered now working with the LGBT Jewish Inclusion Project so that never again the second generation, the next generation will definitely get the chance to hear a different message. That's what I'm really dedicated to. So thank you very much.